You ever had one of those reading months where you finish a book and you immediately think, did I love that? Am I confused? Maybe I was sleep deprived. I actually had one of those in May of 2025. I changed some of my ratings after I had finished the books, but I did manage to read 15 books in the month of May. And instead of doing a whole deep dive into every single one, this wrap up, I'm going to keep it simple, just like I did in April. If you haven't watched the April wrap up, I did read 19 books in April. I'm going to leave that linked for you guys to check it out, but I'm just going to give you a yes, no, maybe for the most part about each of the books. I'm going to tell you which ones I would force into your hands, which ones I would quietly pretend like I never read them, and also the ones that I may still be emotionally processing. Some were actual total surprises for me, some were massive letdowns, and also some that I'm still thinking about. But before we start diving into the books, I'm going to give you my quick stats for the month, because you know I love stats, and I'm getting my stats from both my StoryGraph account as well as my Notion reading tracker. If you don't want to watch the stats and you want to jump straight to the books, I will have the timestamp linked in the description so you can jump straight to it. So starting with the big numbers, I read 15 books. The average time that it took me to finish a book was 2 days, and that accounted for 4,715 pages. Now, the moods of the books that I read in May were, for the most part, lighthearted, emotional, adventurous. Those were about equal. Then after that, funny, and a little bit less, we would go with tense, mysterious, dark, and hopeful. The pacing of the books was 69% medium paced and 31% fast paced, and that probably has something to do with the fact that I only read 15 of them, because I tend to really prefer fast-paced books. And as far as page numbers, 67% of them were between 300 and 499 pages, 27% was less than 300 pages, and 7% was 500 plus. I didn't read any nonfiction, so they were all fiction, and I will go into the subgenres when we look at my Notion tracker. 47% of them were ebooks, 53% of them were audiobooks. I have the Kindle app on my phone, and I have that read to me, so technically they're all audiobooks for the most part. My average rating was 3.55 for the month. I did have quite a few 3 stars for the month of May, so definitely that brought me down. And that's about all the stats that I look at when it comes to StoryGraph. But now we'll just do a quick glance at my stats on my Notion reading tracker, which does do a much better job, obviously, at tracking subgenres and things like that. Okay, so when we look at the stats for May, for the authors that I read, 46.7% were new to me authors. That means that 7 of the books that I read were by new to me authors. 40% I had read before, that's 6 authors. And 2 of the books, so 13.3%, were debut authors. I always want to make sure I stay on top of that, and I keep trying new authors and debut authors, so I think I did pretty decent with that. And then as far as the genres, my big genre for the month, surprisingly, was fantasy romance. I read 4 books that were fantasy romance, that is 26.7%, followed by a tie between historical romance and contemporary romance, and then everything else was 1 book, so young adult contemporary, space opera, sci-fi, mystery, cozy fantasy. So that's the stats pretty much for the month of May. Now, if we look at how the year is going, this is what it's looking like read by month. So my best months were definitely February and April, and May was pretty much on par with March. And so far for the year, surprise, surprise, historical romance is winning. I have read 20 books in historical romance, 15 in contemporary, 13 paranormal romance, 11 fantasy romance, and the rest is just a little bit as well in there, which I am excited about. I think that was one of the changes that I wanted to see this year. And then if I look at how I'm doing with authors, 39.5% are new to me authors, and 51.9% I have read before, and I have read 5 debut authors so far this year. So I think overall I'm doing somewhat decent. I am satisfied with where that is going as well. And something else that I added on my Notion tracker as well, as far as the yearly, is I added a book bracket in here. So they are battling it out in here, and we're going to be moving into the second round here pretty soon. So I'm excited about that. I've been having fun with that as well. And that's pretty much it for the stats. So let's get into the books. The first book is The Sea Witch by Eva Lee, and this is a fantasy romance. It's definitely a yes for me, especially if you want like a mix of the Salem witch trials with some colonial type pirates. And the female character is the captain of the pirate ship. Next up is a mystery, and it's kind of a humorous mystery. It's The Retirement Plan by Sue Hinsenberg, and I'm gonna go with yes on that one for sure. It was just so much fun. I would actually love to see this made into a movie. I think it would translate extremely well. So if you want some humor, definitely yes. And I say humor lightly. Obviously, there's murder involved. The next one was A Mother's Guide to the Apocalypse by Holly Overton, and for this one, I'm also gonna go with yes. It's a bit creepy, especially with weather events and things like that, but sometimes you want that person to just give you a guide on how you survive all the things. So definitely I'm gonna go with yes on this one. Up next is a contemporary YA, and it's Audrey and Bash Are Just Friends by Tia Williams. This one for me was a maybe, but take that also with a grain of salt because YA is not my forte. I don't really love YA, so it was just okay. So maybe if you do like YA contemporaries, then that means it's a yes. So do with that as you will. The next was the final book in the Halifax Hellions, which I started reading the previous month in April because it was the League of Lusty Ladies book club pick. I'm going to leave a link for my review of the first two books in the series because I absolutely love them. But this is book 3. It's In Which Winnie Halifax is Utterly Ruined. The titles for these books are so long, but this was also really, really good. I loved it. I think it's probably on par with how much I loved book 2. So I'm gonna go with a definite yes. The next was To Sway a Soul by Irene Chow. This one I'm gonna go with a maybe. It's a very laid back, kind of cozy fantasy, but at the same time, the stakes were a little bit higher than you would expect in a cozy fantasy, but it felt very cozy and laid back in feel. So yeah, I'm sticking to a maybe on this one, and I have not read the previous books in the series, so I went into this one blind. I still enjoyed it enough. Maybe I would have enjoyed it more had I read the series, but I will also try to read more in the series at another time. The next was Danny Francis Silver Elite, and I'm gonna go with a no on this one. There's really nothing special about this book. I did a whole reading vlog last month when I was reading this, and as I was literally talking through my feelings, I started off with rating it 3.5 stars. I downgraded it to a 3-star, and honestly, there's nothing special about the story, and there are better books for you to be reading, so I'm gonna go with a no. But if you want to see more of my thoughts on that, I do have that reading vlog. I'll leave it linked for you guys. The next is Daughter of Tides by Kit Rocha. This was the first in the Born to Sea and Storm series. I did not know this, but it's actually connected to the Concert of Fire series. I was not lost going into it, and there were things about this that I really, really enjoyed. So if you are, like me, into all things sea creatures and things like that, then you'll definitely enjoy this one because we do have a Kraken pirate ship captain who has this also special connection with the ship, and also a dying god and a nymph. So there's lots of goodies going on in here. Also is at sea. So I definitely really enjoyed this one. So I'm going to go with a yes. The next is Much Ado About Hating You by Sarah Echevarri Smith. Sadly, I'm going to go with a no on this one. I feel like there are better executions for even Shakespeare kind of romances. So this was just okay. So I'm leaning towards telling you no. Then we have Rein Me In by Kayla Gross. And as much as this was kind of a cutesy and I enjoyed it, I'm leaning more towards maybe or no because it's probably one of my least favorites that I have read from Kayla Gross. Up next was Heart of the Sun by Mia Sheridan, and we were just talking about Silver Elite, dystopian post-apocalyptic. This is a much better story, so I would definitely say yes if you want something dystopian that is more original. The next one was one of my favorite reads of the month, and it's The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. So definitely yes if you want some fun, unique, just rich world building with lots of romantic tension and just a great plot, a little bit of sexy and steamy, not a lot. Don't go into expecting like a huge romantasy, but it's just so good. It's so satisfying, and I can't wait for the next book to come out. So definitely a yes. The next one was our League of Lusty Ladies book club pick for the month of May, and it's Nightmaster by Anna Hackett, the first in the Oronis Night series. I do have a whole video where I talk about my feelings on this book, so I will leave that linked as well for you to check it out. But if you're into space opera, definitely yes. If you haven't read space opera, this is a great place to start. So even if you don't know if sci-fi romance is for you, but you don't want to go off the deep end with like aliens that are krakens or different kind of monsters, this is a great entry point, especially most of Anna Hackett's are. But this one was so satisfying, lots of action, so I definitely recommend it. Then we have Bargains with Benefits by Gillian Witt. I'm gonna go with a yes for this one. It's definitely more Hallmark cozy fantasy than anything, but if you want something lighthearted and sweet and just something to take the pressure off of a stressful day, then this is a great read for that. And then the last one was a historical romance, and it's To Catch a Lord by Emma Orchard. My first time reading this author. I'm gonna go with a maybe on this one. Maybe to no. I was not as impressed as I was expecting with it, and there were things about it that I liked, but at the same time I wanted more from this story, so I don't think it quite ever got me interested enough. Like, it was just okay. So I probably will still give the author another try and see if I like her writing style. Maybe it just had to do with the premise of this book, but for this one, yeah, definitely a no to maybe. Depends. And so there you have it. Those are all 15 books that I read in the month of May. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, or also let me know how was your month of May. Did you read any books that you loved? Did you read more or less than you were planning to? How was the vibe? I can tell you from now that the June vibe is already going much stronger with books that I am enjoying more, and also I am finishing more books and reading faster. So I am already excited about that, and I can't wait to tell you guys all about the books that I have been reading and enjoying. In the meantime, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any videos from us. And also, if you want to check out my April reading wrap up with more books that I finish and some that I recommend, I will leave that linked here so you can go and check those out as well. But for now, that's all I have for you guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye!